is JJ Solomon.
This Corey Bradshaw, Mr. IOTBA. Mr. These boys can't touch me on my worst day. And this is the Spit Bucket Podcast.
It's your boy, Mr. IOTBA, Mr. 214, Senor Dos 14, Senor Dos 14, Mr. Undeniable, Mr. D-Boy can't touch me. On my worst day, right here with my partner in crime, my dog, my brother from another, Jose Jr., a.k.a. JJ Solomon. What's popping, my guy?
Man, I'm just chilling, dog, on this beautiful hump day, man. Hump day, and we had to talk to the boxing folks. We was on Twitter and all kinds of questions going around, and then we had some phone calls this morning, and now here we are. Had to make some adjustments on the schedule.
I'm telling you, bro, y'all need to share this.
Yeah,
y'all need to like this, because what we finna get into, y'all don't want to miss this. If y'all on any social medias, please share this. If y'all rocking with us on YouTube, please share this. I'm telling you right now, the news we are about to display is going to be groundbreaking.
Yeah, we do have some breaking news, Corey.
But first off, before we start, go ahead, Jay.
Oh, what are you going to say?
First off, how about them Cowboys?
Oh, man.
I ain't excited, though.
I'm still not drinking the Kool-Aid.
I ain't excited. Like, people, we talking about, oh, can't nobody else who team ain't got 5 Super Bowls. Like, our team talk trash to me, but I'm not excited. Like, we done been through this before. Like, right, JJ, we done made to the playoffs the last 2 years, 12-5, and we absolutely didn't do nothing, JJ. So I'm not excited. I don't get excited no more. Oh,
not
you won 40-0. So what? Let's see what you're gonna do in the playoffs. We know you are a playoff team. We know you are a contender. But we need to see what the Dallas Cowboys are going to do in the playoffs. But I like what Mike McCartney doing, though. Shout out to him. I will give him his credit and his respect. What I noticed about that game, he is calling plays to Dak's strength. He ain't doing like Kellen Winslow. Shout out to Kellen Winslow. Kellen Moore. Shout out to Kellen Moore. Excellent coordinator, right? But we knew that the things Dak was doing under him, he was throwing a lot of interceptions. And what I seen thus far, even though we seen a snippet because it was raining, I liked it, JJ.
I liked it too. And but I got too much energy to right now about what we were going to talk about. So speaking of Dallas, we got some news from the Dallas boxing scene. All right. This is breaking news. But first, we're going to walk you through the timeline of what's gone on. Obviously, yesterday, we got this shattering news that Frank Martin and Shakur, or no, it was 2 days ago. Frank Martin, Shakur Stevenson was off literally a day after we thought it was on. So the question everybody's been calling Frank Martin a duck, especially because he hadn't really spoken up. He hadn't said much besides a quick tweet, and we'll share that here in a bit. But let's walk through the timeline of how we got to here, and then we'll talk a little bit about conversations we've had today as to what happened to Frank Martin, because I think we owe this to Frank Martin based on what's happened on
especially me, JJ, because I really went at him, and after we break this news, I could be like, Frank, I apologize.
Facts. So Mike Coppinger broke the news. Shakur Stevenson Frank fight is off. Comes days after WC purse bid was canceled, after organization was notified by both sides that a deal was reached. Now, for those of you guys that don't really understand, there was a deadline to come to an agreement for both sides before the purse bids. The day of the deadline, that morning, fight was on. Both sides come to agreement. Let's go. The date was locked in. No purse bid required. word on the street, obviously Frank Martin was going to get paid $1 million. His first $1 million payday, which is about 4 times higher than what he's normally getting. Then we got the bad news. We saw Shakur tweeting. We saw this. Frankie said if he's not getting 50-50 with me, he ain't fighting 50-50 or nothing. They went on and on. Frank Martin, this has been some of the only info we've got from Frank Martin. To my fans, I want this fight just like y'all, and I never asked for no 50-50 split. Shakur responds, you asked me in the DMs yesterday. I explained to all you to all the numbers, and you still asked for half of the money. Stop the cap. As far as that's concerned, we don't know that piece of it, but we did have a conversation with a very connected source, a very reliable source.
Insider.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here talking about this, just spreading the news for clickbait. This was a legitimate conversation we had with somebody who's very plugged into the scene. Before we get there, Craig, anything maybe I left off or that you wanted to jump on?
Oh no, like you said, JJ, you spoke it so eloquently. Insider, we got this from an insider, and people know, like when we come to the table and break news, you know, if you look at the percentage of it, it's an A plus. You know, when we say something, it's an A plus. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we do.
All right, man. So obviously, we've got Derek James, who's got a loaded roster right now. I'll name them out from the top to the bottom. Obviously, Errol Spence just came off a disappointing performance July 29th after a highly anticipated 5 years in the making fight with Terrence Crawford. Ryan Garcia recently added to the stable. Anthony Joshua, a performance that was lackluster against Hellenius. Frank Martin, a performance that was lackluster, yes, unanimous decision against our team. I'm not going to ruin the last name, Harutunian. I always forget how to say his last name. And then obviously you got Jermell Charlo getting ready for the fight of his life, Canelo against Canelo Alvarez at the end of this month, September 30th. Most people would look at that, and anybody with half a brain would say, how in the hell is Derek James going to manage that? Going back to the performance we saw with Frank Martin in his last performance, yes, unanimous decision, but it wasn't that performance we expected from Frank Martin. A little bit lackluster. A lot of people were saying, hey, is he not getting the attention that we need? Obviously, he's a champion, you know, he's a contender, not even a prospect anymore. He's getting ready to fight for a strap. Well, phone call this morning, and Corey, interrupt me whenever you want, man. I'm just gonna go ahead and walk it through.
No, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, so there is trouble in paradise. There is trouble in paradise between Frank Martin, Coach Derek James, and even Errol Spence, Man Down Promotions. Frank Martin is the guy at Man Down Promotions. That's pretty much what Errol's banking on at this point. There's been, from what we hear, again, don't shoot the messenger. He's a very reliable source. Frank Martin's been upset about that. Frank Martin has been throwing out the idea about going back to his original coach in Indiana. I think you've got info on his coach, right, Corey? Yeah, go ahead. Talk a little bit about that.
It was a police academy. I sent it to you. You got on your phone?
Yeah, I got it right here. So Frank Martin's coach, Pat McPherson, local police officer, two-time Indiana Golden Glove champ Ike Boyd, and his father Frank also. So it's kind of a three-man team. There were whispers that Frank was wanting to go back to his team. Here is where the separation came up of all of the news that's going out there. From what we've heard this morning, Frank Martin never negotiated that deal. It was Errol and Derek, from what we've heard, selling this as a package deal. I'm going to train you. We're going to promote you. We're going to manage you legally. You can't do it. You know, you can't package it like that. But they heard whispers. They wanted to lock down this fight regardless of Frank. Frank wasn't involved. They thought $1 million payday would be great. He would love it. Frank obviously saw the agreement, saw the news, and said, wait a second. This is Shakur Stevenson we're talking about. If I'm going to go put myself at risk like this, I need 1.5. I need 2. So that's where that came from, where he pulled out and where the dunk mania started. So, yeah, you can say, all right, he walked away from $1 million payday. But, man, you can't be mad at the man. He was never involved in negotiations from what we heard. This was Derek. This was Errol. No Frank Martin, there is no man down promotions. Not right now, there isn't. If they know there's trouble, this is the part where we're sprinkling in here. If they know there's trouble, let's lock them down for one big fight. Let's make our money, and if we part ways after that, at least we have the payday. That's how I'm interpreting the way that went. And that's where we're at the moment. And I think this is something that's good for Frank Martin's reputation, because all day on Twitter yesterday, we've just been waiting to see what he's going to say, and he's been just kind of denying that, hey, it wasn't that I wanted 50-50. It's just he wanted more money. He wasn't involved in a negotiation table. Corey, that's what we've heard. Corey, what are your thoughts?
And plus, you heard me speak on this when it came to the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. I was like, was Derrick James giving Errol Spence his best? Was he tired? Did he have the right game plan? Was he thinking about the other guy game plan? And with Frank Martin, basically he was getting the short end of the stick, JJ, where he wasn't getting the type of attention that he needed. Because if we could be honest, yeah, you may not have Frank favored against none of them guys, but Frank is a strong contender. Another thing, if Frank Martin is what man down promotion, they number one guy, why wouldn't you involve him in the negotiations? Why wouldn't you tell him what direction you're going? Why would you sign, seal, and deliver a fight without coming to him and letting him know everything that's going on in the contracts, the litigations, and everything? Why would you do that and come tell him to do that? And another thing, Jay, you got Frank Martin, legitimate. I look at him as even being more legitimate than Ryan Garcia.
Facts.
Why would you bring Ryan Garcia in when you already got Earl, Anthony Joshua, Frank Martin? Now you bring in Ryan Garcia,
who's it's going to take all kinds of distractions, focus off the fighters. One more thing, man. And again, we're piecing this together. I know there's going to be a whole bunch of Errol Spence, Derrick James fans. We're here right in the heart of Dallas. We know what it's like. We're not here to smear anybody's name. We're telling you what we've been notified. And this is legit, because I'm going to take it back to an interview that we had, All Things Boxing, working as a correspondent for the Spit Bucket, interview with Frank Martin in April.
Frank, who do you want to fight next?
I'm ready for whoever. Tank, Ryan, Devin, Shakur, Williams, Pater.
You want the place with everybody?
Yeah, any of these guys, I'm ready. You gotta go. It's just, just giving the opportunity. You know what I mean? I'm ready for whoever.
So, reason I play that, man, is because, look, Frank Martin is a man. He's a man. He's a fighter. He's been public about ready to fight the big fights. It doesn't make sense that he agreed and literally the next day said, never mind. Everybody was saying he agreed because he was trying to get out of the purse bid, which would ultimately force him into it. But that's not the Frank Martin we know is a fighter. The Frank Martin we know, obviously saying, I want them all. Why would you be running your mouth if you're just going to pull out of the fight that you just secured? It didn't make any sense. That's why this story has some legs. That's why this makes sense. We know Man Down needs Frank Martin, and all the pieces make sense if you put your mind to it. So what we know for sure is that there was beef there. There was trouble in paradise. Frank wanted to leave. Derrick and Errol. It's been trouble in paradise with Frank Martin and Derrick James and Errol Spence now. Why you think he want to go back to his old trainer? Don't ask us, ask Frank. Yeah, let me address some of these countdowns. Boxing Nerd, what's up? Matt Man Down has a one-man down, get it? D Nice, why all the excuses when it's obvious what's going on? He ducked. It's not excuses. It's an explanation as to why it happened the way it happened. Yeah, you can say Frank should have still taken the million, but this is a man we're talking about, a man who can, if he's not happy with his money, he didn't accept that. He didn't accept that. He wasn't in a negotiating table. So no, he don't have to take that money because his people making him. No, he was never involved. So that's that. I'm not mad at Frank Martin one bit. They just get signed up for a fight, and you don't even know you signed up for the fight. And here, this is what you're getting.
$1 million. You don't even know nothing about the fight. Like, come on, that ain't how it works. It's not how business works.
Yeah, exactly, man. And you keep hearing the PBC is protecting him, right? And look, you can protect Tank Davis because Tank Davis is going to sell regardless of who's in front of him. You can't necessarily baby Frank Martin like that because Frank Martin doesn't have the name, he doesn't have the reputation. So you have to throw Frank Martin out there. PBC is not going to protect Frank Martin because why? Most people in America don't know who Frank Martin is, you know? So there is not that protection there. So, man, with all that being said, I am real careful to use the duck word in boxing. I hate the duck word in boxing. It was looking like he ducked. A lot of people blasted him for ducking.
Especially me.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I know you were going to talk about something.
And like I said, like, the thing is, it looked like that, JJ, because my thing is the fight was signed, sealed, and delivered. But now with this new information that we didn't know that they signed the contract and signed, sealed, and delivered it without Frank Martin doing it, I was under the assumptions that Frank Martin was in on the negotiations and he knew everything that was going on. He knew this fight was signed, sealed, and delivered, and he didn't know nothing.
He didn't, man. He didn't. So, Alfred Soul, didn't he agree to a deal for the purse bid to be canceled? His representation did. Errol and Derek. Errol Spence and Derek is acting, again, from this conversation, Derek is almost acting as a consultant manager type, along with being his trainer. And the verbiage that was used on the phone with us this morning was package deal. Package deal. You want Derek to train you, within Errol's going to be your promoter. You're going to be working for Man Down. You're going to be doing what we said. The fact is, Frank, the fact is that from what we heard from a legitimate source, is that Frank was never involved in negotiations. And I don't give a damn. Look, I ride with Shakur. I think Shakur is the next big thing. It's been documented. I think Shakur was going to make this look easy, to be honest with you. And not a knock on Frank, but that's just how I think of Shakur. I'm not sitting here trying to protect Frank Martin, but I think we owe it to the guy to speak up. Maybe he's not allowed to come out and speak out for contractual obligations, but this is what we heard, again, from a very good source. And I think so are we saying Spence is a bad promoter? I'm not saying that. You can say whatever you want from this, but it put their man in a bad position. And don't be surprised to not see that partnership there anymore, especially after the fight, guys. So again, we're not on here protecting anybody. You saw Correa on his IOTBA channel kind of going in on Frank. And so obviously this into protecting. We feel we owe this to boxing. We feel that we owe this to Frank Martin because, man, he's taking a beating. And at the end of the day, Frank Martin is a man, dog. He's a man. He's not going to just duck. So obviously, like,
why would, like, I swear, shout out to WCS because he the first one who I heard said when he called him Diddy James. Like, why would, because, you know, acting like he puffed that, like, all in the video, on the camera, want to do all this other stuff. Why is you doing all this? Like, that's a Bush League move to me, JJ, and that's unacceptable.
Yep.
If I'm Frank Martin.
For sure. Afro, so what deal was agreed? $1 million, man. That was the deal. He was getting paid $1 million, and the numbers we heard were 1.5 and 2 was what he wanted, what he felt he deserved for Shakur. That is not what we're here to talk about. What he deserves, what he doesn't deserve. We're telling you why. There was an issue at camp. He wanted to get back to Indiana, to his roots. Folks that brought him up. How can you blame him? Derek's got everybody in his camp. It's 110 degrees out here, and they're training outside. How can you blame him?
And look how he looked. Look how he looked.
Not just him, Earl, AJ. I mean, I don't know.
We don't know how Charlo gonna look, but hey, JJ, coming off a 17-month layoff with a hand injury, bro. Like, this ain't, man. It will tell you that this ain't gonna go nice for Charlo, just like it didn't go nice for Earl Spence Jr. coming off that long layoff. But like I'm saying, look at Frank Martin in his last fight. You could tell he didn't get the attention he needed in
Mhm.
training camp, bro. This is a guy who 18-0 with 12 knockouts. He is one of the rising contenders. He is the type of guy you supposed to give attention to. Why would you bring Ryan Garcia into this camp when you know you got that guy right there? That guy right there who has possibly more, I think, has more potential than
I
a
agree.
Ryan Garcia.
I agree. Now, the answer to your question is money, correct? I don't care what Frank Martin does in the next 10 years. It's going to be hard for him to get a payday and a pay-per-view the way Ryan would. That's
Yep.
the answer to that question. But you're absolutely right in terms of eye test, raw skill. I mean, Frank Martin is somebody that you want to put time and effort into. And dude, I don't care what you say. I don't care what fighter it is. Preparation is so important. You go back to, you take it to football. If you have a bad week of practice, you're going to see it on Sunday. If you have a bad camp, you're going to see it. I don't care who it is. You talk about Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. You could talk about Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Sturm. You have a bad camp, you're going to look bad. And we've been seeing time after time after time mediocre performances. Yes, Anthony Joshua got the knockout, but it took him 6 rounds to do it against a statue that was doing nothing, So there are problems already.
And then look, you stated money, right? See, I know everybody want money, but you know the term "all money ain't good money." Like, he brought Ryan Garcia in there for money, right? So guess what? Him knowing Ryan Garcia doing these big numbers or can do big numbers as we seen in the Tank Davis fight, Jay. Oh, I'm finna spend extra time with this guy because I want this guy to turn out and be spectacular. If I'm looking at this guy, I'm looking at Frank Martin, a guy who was born in Detroit, moved to Indiana, like compared to Ryan Garcia, yeah, I'm finna spend more time with you. And it's a key component to it. Ryan Garcia came while Frank Martin was getting ready for camp, and we seen videos circulating of Derrick James working with Ryan Garcia. Why are you working with him when
It
you
was like he
got
was a
this
sales
guy?
pitch, bro. It was a sales
Come
pitch.
on.
Yeah, man, it's a bad look all around. This is our hometown. This is this Derek and Arrow. Let's give them credit. They were putting boxing Dallas on the map on a professional level. I mean, look at who we have in town right now, throughout the year now, but obviously, me and Corey want to see Dallas come up. We want that in our backyard. But if it's affecting the integrity of the sport, if it's affecting a contender's opportunities, let's say Frank takes his $1 million, and let's say that fight goes the way I think it would go, Shakur by a landslide. What's next for Frank Martin? That's it. You throw some taxes in that $1 million payday, you're cutting that in half. You pay your coaches, your staff. That's way less than a $500,000 at that point. How is he supposed to set himself up for the rest of his life if he looks the way a lot of people look against Shakur Stevenson? I understand.
And look, Jay, this is what's crazy right here. Why would you be throwing him into a fight with Shakur Stevenson when he looks subpar against Autumn? He go from Autumn, then going to fight this guy who's God fucking gifted.
Yep.
That say, JJ, Frank Martin got to really look at the situation right now. He didn't look that good against Autumn, JJ. And for a announcement to be made about them fighting, and for them finna throw him and her against this guy when he didn't look that good, and this other guy is someone we look at as special, man, that's a problem.
I agree 100%, dude. And the question for Frank is what happens now, because especially after today, if this gets out, it's going to get out, where does Frank go from here? I think it's important that his story gets out. And dude,
they say, where does Frank go from here? I can tell you, Frank can go a long way from her. As a matter of fact, this probably be the best move for Frank Martin, to just go and separate paths with Derrick James, bro. My thing is, we see the same thing in all his fighters, bro. No head movement, come forward, try to be a dog. We know the boxing is a sweet science, Jay. And I ain't been seeing none of that in Frank Martin None of these fights he been in. I ain't been seeing no head movement. I've been seeing a guy coming in, bull rushing. He's an athletic bastard. He come in, bull rushing, but I see his head up, JJ, vulnerable to be hit. Look what just happened to Earl Spence, JJ. Earl Spence has been that same guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
JJ, look, this Diddy James got so arrogant to where he didn't look at Earl Spence over the years and see that Earl Spence wasn't doing this head movement or doing like Earl. He just looked at Earl Spence, just if it working, just keep doing what works, JJ. And that's irresponsible for him as a coach. He listened to us YouTubers. Listen to him. He was on the stage saying he got 3 trainers. He ain't fought nobody. Now, what type of talk is that from a trainer, bro, to say he ain't fought nobody? And then look what happened to his fighter. That's unacceptable.
Yeah. I want to address again, man. You got to seize the opportunities you get, everyone. I get that, dog. But again, let's break this down. First of all, it's 2023, where the dollar isn't what $1 million paycheck ain't what it used to be. Mm-hmm. Second of all, the bills, you got to pay Derek. You've got to pay everybody. You've got, there's sanctioning fees. It's not a straight $1 million check. And Uncle Sam, IRS, these athletes get taxed higher than anybody. That check, he ain't walking away with $1 million. This isn't Shakur Stevenson fighting Devin Haney, where there's a good chance Shakur wins this fight. So, yeah, the argument is Shakur should have taken that opportunity, because what comes after? Frank Martin, very likely, amongst most boxing pundits and most boxing fans and most boxing experts, was going to get beat badly against Shakur Stevenson. So I understand the $1 million bait, right? But what happens after, if he gets potentially destroyed the way Errol just did? Those opportunities are gone. Now you've got what, $400,000, $300,000 to live the rest of your life on. All this guy knows is boxing. He ain't be able to go be an accountant.
Yeah, and exactly, Jay. And to say this, let's just say, forget the $1 million bait. Why was a fight signed and I didn't know nothing about it? I didn't know nothing about the negotiations. You came to me and you said, this fight is signed right here. You fighting on this date, and this what you getting. That's not how business go, JJ. And everybody know that's not how business go. So for anybody to sit up here and be mad at Frank Martin after hearing this information, one thing we have to understand, it's about having integrity, bro. Like when you lose that integrity, or when you try to be slick and do some stuff, JJ, like you can't never look at that person the same again, because you be like, damn, if he tried to pull this one under me, what else would he try to do?
Facts. And how many times have we heard the old, you're your own boss when you're fighting with PBC? You're your own boss. You get to make your decisions. What happened with that? And now, if this story is true, which we have every reason to believe it is, how are you just going to say, hey, Frank, you got to fight with probably the best boxer in the world, and we gave you $1 million for it? Man,
and look, how does that make sense business? Like, JJ, when I made that video and I told Earl, smart move, getting Frank out this fight. Even I still thought it was a duck, but now I know. Like, why would he go in there after he just looked like that against Artem? Made absolutely no sense at all, JJ. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about this some more, y'all.
We all have battles. We fight. We train. We work. We persevere. And we celebrate. We are all one.
I can't do anything if I can't walk in my prosthetic. It's a lot of pain that I feel throughout my day. It can be very intense. Now I just put that balm over it and it will heal up much faster and it will let the callus recover. That's amazing. It is a total game changer. I am hooked. I am absolutely, I'm just hooked.
Life is hard, KO makes it better. KOCBD.com.
Once again, thanks to our partners over at KO Therapeutics. Y'all check them out for
hold up. This split bucket
43.
43.
Yeah, 43.
Sorry about that, everybody.
We were just too antsy to get on here and start
Episode
talking to you guys.
And just pull up that D Young comment at the bottom.
All right, I'm pulling it right now. D Young. My thing is, guys, where's Frank gonna go? Because honestly, the next logical option would be Tank Davis. Being that they on the same side, wouldn't it be a lose-lose situation for him as well? Just to catch everybody up, we had the breaking news that Frank Martin was never involved with negotiations, that it was a deal that Derek and Errol signed, and that's why it looked like he ducked the next day after came to agreement. Craig, do you want to take the question?
Yeah, it's not about where he gonna go, D Young. It's about look at Frank Martin and look how he looked in his last fight. It ain't about taking the opportunity. You take the opportunity when you know you physically and mentally ready to take that opportunity, and you have the confidence that you're ready. You didn't see confidence on Frank Martin's face after that fight. You seen disappointment on his face, on Diddy James' face, and on Earl Smith's face. You seen a sigh of disappointment. The thing with Frank Martin is you don't put him in no fight like that. You put him in other fights like with guys like a Kid Austin, guys like
or pay him right.
Or pay him right, or guys like a Kid Austin, or guys like Keyshawn Davis. You put him in there with guys like that, you know, to see where he at before you jump him to this level. Because people got to understand, Frank Martin started the sport late at the age of 21, if I'm not correct. Frank Martin was a wrestler growing up, one of the top wrestlers. He was a top wrestler growing up. So, and he started late. So with him starting late, the level he is on a Keyshawn. And guess what? Keyshawn Davis and Kid Austin, they may be on a higher level than him because they've been doing it since they were young. He 8 fights in. So when he looked like that, but Frank Martin, you could see that he belonged on this level because we shouldn't be speaking his name. But just say scratch them guys. It's other guys you could put him out there against, bro, because you're supposed to go correct everything that he did in his last fight. You don't put him in there with no guy like Shakur, and then you don't put him in there without acknowledging him about all the details about the fight. He ain't supposed to hear about this from Mike Coppinger.
Facts, man. Exactly. Casual bass guy. He nearly got beat by Artem, which is almost, I see what you're saying. If he takes another eliminator and goes against another tough guy and he slips up, but only for 100,000, then that's really going to be down. Yeah, man. But this is Frank Martin, a top contender. Like, he's probably going to win these fights. I know he can lose, but to our point earlier, we didn't see the same Frank Martin under Derek James. Because maybe the distractions, maybe not having all the attention. So that led him to the decision to want to leave. So it's not just one thing here. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure everybody watching right now is a man. And if not, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. As a man, you have another man making your decisions. Another man who, in Errol, who for the last 5 or 6 years, we've talked about being your own boss and, that sort of deal. So that's kind of the motto that you hear from man down. I'm my own. As a man, are you going to just take what they give you for fighting one of the best boxers in the world after a mid-level performance? Because and that's coming from Derek James. So as a man, I don't fault Frank Martin one bit. I don't know what his bank account looks like. I don't know what his expenses look like. I can't say he should have taken the $1 million. But what I do know is that's not a real $1 million. And the fight game, these guys don't have backup careers once you're at this level, man. You have to squeeze every dollar out of it. If Frank Martin fought Shakur Stevenson and got beat the way a lot of us thought he was going to get beat, that could have been the end of Frank Martin. So what are you going to do? Take $500,000 paychecks over and over and over, or take $1 million fight, and then chances are your stock plummets. But that's not what we're here for. The fact is, he wasn't involved in the negotiating table. And as a man, as an athlete, as somebody who represents himself in 2023, you should be able to say no or yes, I'm going to do that because it's my life that's on the line. It's my family and it's my money. I'm not mad at him.
And look, it's crazy this happened to Frank Martin being around Diddy James and Earl Spence. Guess who else was around Diddy James and Earl Spence? Me. Me. Look, Jay, look. And as a man, bro, like, what did I do? You did was I finna kiss no Derrick James ass, after getting mad, because I'm telling you, Jay, he bush league like that, real life scumbag, bro. Like, to get mad at me because I was over there hyping Earl up, and he said, "Hey man, let him work. I'm finna go sit down." Earl screamed at him and said, "No, let him keep talking." Then after that, IOTBA was no longer able to come around Earl Spence or the gym or anything like that. And what did I do, JJ? I stood on my shit.
Yeah. And
I didn't give a fuck about that.
And this is that's exactly right, dog. What you did is essentially the same. You could have said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, please take me back," and stuff like that. But you stood on your pride as a man. And that's what I believe Frank Martin did, because it was a fast decision too. It almost felt like he was pissed off and said, "Hell no, I'm not taking that fight," because it happened so fast. It's like once he came to the realization that the decision was made for him, it happened fast. Maybe he's regretting not fighting now because maybe he was pissed off when he made the decision not to. We don't know that. Shakur's got a fight with Edwin lined up now. Fact of the matter, it's a done deal. Frank Martin's out of the fight.
He ain't upset that this fight is not. No, I'm telling you, he ain't upset. And the reason why I say he ain't upset, because JJ, when somebody do some funny style shit like that, like, you could never look at them the same. When you try to play me like this on this level, bro, you can never look at that guy the same, because if you would do this, then what else you would do? Just like, come on, JJ, just like us. Like, if one of us do some funny style stuff to each other, how can we ever look at that person the same again, bro? How would that be? It been a lot of friends we both had that done did funny style stuff. We don't look at them the same as we used to. And you got to look at Frank Martin. He is a contender, JJ. Like, they can't stop what he doing. But he is really in control of his career, right? And he ain't got to rush his career like that for the benefit of them, especially when they found whispers. And y'all got to understand this. They heard whispers.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Martin want to go back to his old coaches, right? And as soon as that upsetted them, and upset them, made them want to do actions real quick and swift, because they're like, okay, if it's like this, we got to probably get something out of it, whoop-de-whoop. And that's just totally unacceptable. That's irresponsible. And if you ain't a man, and if you can't stand on that, like Frank Martin did, and if you upset with him after hearing this, then I don't know who the fuck you are or what you about.
Yeah, man, I see it. E-Thriller, what's up, bro? He said, so did Shakur make up that 50-50 DM shit? I don't know if he made it up or not, but he did delete it immediately after he posted it. So two things. He posted the 50-50 tweet. He deleted it. Next day, Frank Martin came out and said, I didn't ask for no 50-50 split. And then that's when Shakur went up and said posted up, and I'll just throw it back up there one more time. This came first, was immediately deleted. Frankie said he's not getting 50-50 with me. Next day, Frank Martin posted, hey, guys, I really wanted this, and I never asked for a 50-50 split. Shakur still saying he asked for half, which could match up with this story as well, saying 1.5 to 2 million is what Frank thought was reasonable, which is a little bit closer to half, not quite half. But
JJ, and why not? I'm getting thrown in there with Shakur.
I'm not asking for 50-50. That's ridiculous. And I think Frank
not
Martin
50-50.
Yeah.
But shit, you got to at least give me 1.52 million. If you want me to go in here and fight Shakur,
yeah, let
you
me walk
offer
away
me
with
1
6
million?
figures.
No.
No, let me walk away with 6 figures, man.
Oh man, when it rains, it pours, JJ, and it's not looking good, over there in World Ass Boxing Gym or man down promotions, right? We need some answers. You know, why would this deal get signed without Frank Martin? How is other potential fighters that you want to groom and bring along gonna look at this situation? You know, like I say, when it rains, it pours. You know, people could be shady, right, Jay? And they could do something dirty. You know, with kids, Jay, I'm gonna say with children, you have to forgive children because children are adolescents. Now, when children grow up and when you're able to be a grown individual, then that's when you're held accountable. As long as you have your children in your house from 0 to 18, they're adolescents, and you know it's different. But JJ, when you're grown and you know what you're doing, and you do it intentional like that with no regards. If I'm Frank Martin, I'm running faster than Forrest Gump did.
Yeah, and it's hard to disagree with you, dog. I want to just reiterate what we're on here to do. We're not here we're just kind of letting y'all know what we heard. We're not here to say, did he deserve it? Did he not? Should he have taken it? That's not where we are. We're not going to say what another man should do with this, especially in this situation where we're finding out that Frank Martin was not involved in negotiations. Brandon Fairley, what's up, bro? Thanks for tuning in. Catch me up. I'm on the road working. Appreciate you tuning in, dog. But yeah, long story short, we caught wind this morning from a very credible source that Frank Martin was not involved with the agreement that we all heard about that canceled the purse bid. It was a decision made by Mandown and Derek, Errol and Derek, essentially. Frank Martin reviewed it, said, what the hell? I didn't agree to this. And now for the past 48 hours, the dude has been getting absolutely blitzed on social media from people that were fans, people that are fans. Just it's bad. And Mr. IOTBA himself. So we're just trying to clear the air because we feel it's our job, and this is the information that was given to us. So you guys do what y'all want with it. But Corey, man, I'm gonna have to dip. This was kind of unplanned. I have to dip out, dog. But anything else that you wanted to clear up before we headed out?
Oh no, man. I just want everybody, you know, to see why Frank Martin feel like he feel right now. Y'all put yourself in his shoes. Y'all put yourself in his shoes, right? See, we was under the assumption that Frank Martin was in on all the negotiation, and Frank Martin said yeah, right? It ain't that Frank Martin wouldn't have said yeah. It's that they said yeah for Frank Martin before Frank Martin had the opportunity to look over the details and say yeah himself. And that's a dirty game.
100%, man. So again, guys, if y'all can please hit that like button, hit that bell so y'all can get notified when we've got news like this. And please tell your friends about the Spit Bucket Podcast. Like we said, we're working hard to get you guys the best box of content we can. And we appreciate all of y'all tuning in here in the afternoon, man. We appreciate everybody. Let me make sure we ain't got no last minute comments to address. Yeah, there's just people going on and on about Martin and Shakur. But hopefully this cleared the air a little bit. We appreciate you guys. Corey, thanks for jumping on with the short notice, homie. And let's get to work. I'll holler at y'all later.
This is JJ Solomon.
This Corey Bradshaw, Mr. IOTBA. Mr. These boys can't touch me on my worst day. This is the Spit Bucket Podcast.